Hi everyone, my name is Joel Kremer, and for those of you who don't know me, I am here for the first time, and I like it very much. I like that the sun came out today, so looking forward to tonight and tomorrow as well. But I am here to tell you guys a story about a personal journey turned into a global mission, turned into a vision about a virtual art district. Oh, this doesn't work. So the Kremer collection, my name is Joel Kremer, so it's about my family's art collection. Kremer collection is a collection of Dutch and Flemish old masters. We're at about, at about 80 pieces now. It's been put together since roughly 1994, and the obsession with art started with my father way earlier. He was 10 years old, visited the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and fell in love with a Jewish bride. Who unfortunately was married already. But he was so mesmerized by that painting by Rembrandt as a 10-year-old boy that he got into trouble because his class had moved on and they lost him. So, whole story about that. Some 40 years later, he read a newspaper article, and he was a bit astonished that this type of art was still acquirable. And via a few acquaintances, he got in touch with an art dealer, and he bought his first painting, which was a study by Govert Flink. And he didn't sleep for 2 nights because he had no idea what he spent so much money for. It all went very quickly. Within 2 years, he had bought a painting, the second or the third painting, by a student of Rembrandt called de Rousseau. And that painting turned out to be this painting by Rembrandt himself called Old Man with the Turban. So it was quite a amazing purchase. And since then, in the next years, the sort of love for art and old masters turned into an obsession. And within 3 years' time, there were 30 artworks in the collection. Now, what do you do with all these artworks? I know that some people like to have art at home. We, or my father and my parents, have always felt very, very strongly about sharing art with as many people as possible because it is cultural heritage, it is fantastic, and in our case, it's some of the absolute highlights of the Dutch history. So the mission very quickly became to put together a meaningful collection of old master paintings and share it with as many people as we could. So the classic way to do that is to organize exhibitions, do print publications in the form of interviews, art historical research, and basically get your collection out there. And then, of course, online is a big part of that for the last 15 years. So that's where I come in. I had always found our collection really interesting, but it's not an obsession for me. Well, it is now, but it wasn't back then. My background is in tech. I've worked for Google for 7 years, and so my obsession is technology. So I built a few websites, mobile apps, Google Art Project, and we were, as a family collection, always trying to really push the boundaries of how can we share this art and where can we share this art, and so what's next, right? Well, the traditional way, the traditional next step would be to build a private museum. And so we started discussing it sometimes and then very quickly stopped again. And we started it again, and sort of the question about, so where is this collection going to be in 100 years? Because, you know, building a private museum, especially when you're from Amsterdam, or from Holland, which is quite rich in museums, especially with our own art, is quite daunting. So we decided, you know what, let's take a little bit more of a scientific approach. Let's stripe the word sharing, and let's see how we can actually do some marketing. Because both these words share a common goal, which is to connect and to reach people. So how can basic marketing principles, the most basic marketing principles, so the 4 Ps, help us to share our collection or to market our collection to as many people as we can? More practically, how can this painting up on the screen by a guy called Michael Sweerts, who a lot of people have never heard of, but who has painted some of the most fantastic art that I have ever seen. And if you think about the photorealism that this man has produced, and the fact that this particular painting has hung 2 meters across from the girl with the pearl earring, which everyone in the world knows. How can we use marketing to establish that same result? So basically, the great thing about being a private collection is that you're much more flexible and quick than most museums are. And so that allows for out-of-the-box thinking, it allows for fast decisions, and it allows for big thinking, so disruptive thinking. And I like that. So I was thinking, how can I use technology as a next step to turn this world upside down? So what if we could literally turn the museum or the art world upside down and think big? How would we do that? And so my new mission very quickly became to build a virtual museum, which basically that is as close to a real-world physical experience, and bring it to the people. So instead of people coming to the museum, we would want to bring it to them. Well, there's a little step in between the last slide and this one, which is I had to convince my family to do this. But on paper, it all sounded great. So I started looking all around the world, and I ended up in the north of Holland, of all places. Small development company called Moyosa Media. And these guys just got it immediately. They understood what I meant. They immediately started building a prototype. And really from the first discussions that we had up until the launch late last year at Sotheby's in New York was 11 months. Now, I don't have to tell anyone in the room here that 11 months for planning and building a museum is quite efficient. So not only that, we got great feedback from the art world, much better than I expected, actually. I had expected much more pushback. All the big media outlets, and we even won, it's a bit nerdy, but we won a VDA award, which is sort of the Oscars for virtual reality at the moment. So we're very, very happy with that. So what is in store for 2018? Most of this year, we're now live to the public on one platform. But if you think about the VR landscape, it's very fragmented at the moment and still developing. It's really an infant. So most of this year, we will spend on going live on as many platforms as we can, including the Far East, which is very interesting, and building out the features within the museum. And this sounds all very abstract. The next thing I'll do is I'll show you a little bit of what we've built. But think about all the great ways that, if you're digitally immersed in an environment, all the great ways you can tell a story about an art piece or a painting in our case. All the overlays, all the information that we have, X-ray technology, infrared photography, hotspots within a painting. We want to build an actual museum gift shop, because why not? And gift shops are very interesting for museums. We want to build a cinema room with all the digital content that we've shot and will shoot with experts that we work with. We're adding additional galleries, and we would love to add partner galleries with other collections as well. So lots on the agenda. Let me show you a little bit about what this looks like. Yeah, no, I'll just shout. Sorry. Oh, it would help if I change. all see this? Okay. So I'm standing in the middle of our museum right now. It's a bit shaky and wobbly because the podium is a bit shaky and wobbly. So that's actually real in both the real world and the virtual experience. But this is what our museum looks like. It's a huge dome-shaped experience. I have a 24-karat controller, which is really expensive. And the way for me, this is quite shaky actually. The way for me to move myself around the museum is simply to click my way in front of a painting. And now that I'm in front of the painting, without falling from the stage, I can actually go really, really close and see a lot of detail. And I go to the next painting, and I just do the same. And for anyone who can see this, I mean, we have taken, just to give you an idea, we have taken about 3,000 to 4,000 pictures of each painting to get the level of detail that we're looking at. We are disclosing information in three ways. One is text. One is audio, which we can't hear right now, unfortunately. But there's an audio tour for each painting. And I want to show one more thing. This particular frame, so the actual paintings were captured in a technique called photogrammetry, which is a way of photographing paintings multiple times and then making a 3D model out of it, which is why you see this kind of detail here. The frames are actually made in 3D, so they're handmade. And this is the kind of detail. Can everyone still see this? Okay, because I hear laughing. And then the last thing I wanted to show, check quickly where I am, is this is the Rembrandt I was talking about, and I can actually step through it and see the back of the painting. Okay. Oh, no, I have one more thing. I'm like Steve Jobs. So a very personal way, could I have the microphone again? Thank you. A very personal way for us to disclose information, which takes a little bit more time, is the following. So we can't hear them, but these are my parents just saying hello, welcoming everyone to the museum, and we're actually working on having holograms like this for multiple paintings, which, to be honest, you know, it's not my parents I want to see the whole time, but sorry, it's not my parents I want to see the whole time, but think about having, you know, famous people, experts, explain what it is that people are looking at in a very, I think, emotionally appealing way, because they're the experts. So that was just a small demo I wanted to do. I'm quickly going to go through. I'll have this set up for, I know that we're running really late, but tomorrow in the Tech Corner I'll have this set up for anyone who wants to play around with it and see it. So then, I need to change the... So it's great that I can make something like this and then I have to manually switch the plugs. So Mighty Masters is the second thing I wanted to mention. Mighty Masters is a program for us to bring this technology to school kids all around the world. It's a program that we thought of because my father had this experience when he was 10 years old. And to be honest, there are so many millions of kids all around the world who will never be able to experience this kind of art, or really any kind of art. You'll see a video at the end of the presentation about me going to the Bronx in New York, which is 19.2 kilometers away from the Met and the Frick. And I'm in front of a class of 20 school kids, naively asking who knows Rembrandt. And no one knows the name Rembrandt. I then asked how many of you have been to a museum, and only 6 of them had ever been to a museum, and not to an art museum, but to a natural history museum. And we think that that's a shame. Growing up in Holland, being enriched with this type of art. But Mighty Masters is not only about us, it's about anyone who wants to join the program to spread art all over the world. Can definitely contact us. So we want to make art universally accessible and fun to as many school kids in the world as we can, and we do that by bringing museum to them. And the last part I wanted to talk about is the guys that built our museum. We got together after lunch and we actually started talking about the amazing feedback we had, and also the great, I guess, innovative breakthroughs that we had by actually building this. And we thought we were onto something. So we started brainstorming, and we thought we should do this for others as well. So we now have a startup called Moyosa Art, and really the centralized vision of Moyosa Art is to build a platform for VR experiences. Because the market is so fragmented, and that's not going to change for a while, we want to build, or we have built, an art district with multiple cultural institutions where people can meet, play, and enjoy cultural heritage anytime, anywhere, regardless of being in the vicinity of a museum or a hotel room or even an airplane. But to do that, we had to, I heard it a few times today, we had to sort of rethink what's at the core of a museum experience, because if you don't have a building, then where do you start? So we defined that as a museum is an entrance plus a bunch of experiences related to the museum and its brand and its collections, right? All the rest is very much related to the physicality of things. So then, what are the words related to an entrance? So you come up with words like customer services, inspiring. We just saw the Louvre Abu Dhabi, which looks fantastic. I have yet to go there, but it's high on my bucket list. It needs to be a brand statement, accessible, and we came up with all these words. And we did the same thing for the experience, and the experience for us is really, needs to be inspiring. You need to discover things, because the more I look at just 74 paintings, the more I learn. Every time I look at a painting, I see something new, something different, and I have a whole new appreciation for genres within our collection, or schools within our collection that I previously never knew I liked. And so it's about discovery, it has to be inspiring, and it's about storytelling. And VR is all about storytelling for us. So how can we translate this and maximize the added value that this technology can bring to museums? Well, by doing the impossible up till now. So we can welcome paying visitors anytime, anywhere, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We can show artworks that traditional physical museums do not have space for. And although there are obviously very large institutions out there, who have a couple of thousand pieces on display, they probably have a couple of 100,000 somewhere in a vault, which just are almost never seen. And that's a shame. We can also show them in ways that would never be possible. We can make it so that you can actually pick up the painting, you can walk through the painting, we can do digital overlays, we can enrich the experience so much. Think about all the content that everyone here has created for exhibitions in the past that is now unused. In this model, exhibitions could live on endlessly. And of course, we could immerse visitors in the life and paintings of an artist. We have the examples of the Modigliani studio. We have being able to step into a painting. The sky is really the limit if you're able to get creative. And we're planning on doing that. And the last thing that I want to mention is we can actually gather real-time insights and feedback about how people behave within our museum. That means from start to end, we can follow people through the museum, see how long they're looking at a particular painting, listening to the audio tours. With eye tracking coming up within these headsets, we can actually see where people are looking within a painting, and 100 other different KPIs that we don't even understand yet or know that people are going to want. And we're working with a few big institutions to develop that further. So to facilitate that and maximize this, we've created the platform called Art District. An Art District is really, in its core, a distribution and analytics platform for all VR experiences related to art. So we and others can build virtual museums, entrances and experiences for their collections. So I just want to show you, I hope I kept it brief, I just want to show you a quick video about our Mighty Masters program, and then we go, I think, to the panel. Thank you very much.